Call to order again.
Why do I feel like Richard Nixon?
Okay, so the first action item is approval of the minutes that Max has distributed for Friday, August 16th meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, thank you, Max, for getting the minutes done. Appreciate it. Next thing I have on the agenda is the chairman's report. I'm going to kind of hand it back to Max to give us an update on what's been going on with the TIF, and also what's been going on with LED lighting for both the town street lights and for the town office.
So for the TIF, still waiting to hear from the state, first of all. You'll notice I passed around this little sheet. It should be the last one that everyone got. This is just something that Bill wanted us to go through, just going through different areas of town, or different categories for the EDA plan we had for the downtown.
Morning, Ted.
I could get into that after my streetlights report, or we can just start going through this now.
Why don't we go through where we are in the streetlights first, and then attack this?
So for streetlights, they have chosen a supplier and manufacturer. They chose Acuity, or AEL and AEL. According to their scores, it was the cheapest option, pretty much, by a good amount, actually. I think I sent Select Board all the information.
Who is they, by the way?
Real Term chose
Okay.
them.
I just want to make sure that they synced up in my head.
Yep. We didn't switch out contractors first, I guess, as final.
Has anyone voted on that yet?
Voted on what?
The, going ahead with that, or are they just proposing?
We're still in the IGA phase. In fact, I'm going to be talking with them, I think, on the 30th.
Would they give you the name of a satisfied customer?
Yes, I've been speaking with Dave Johnson and Dover
Excellent.
Foxcroft.
Excellent, just what I want to hear, thank you.
On the 30th, I'm just going over a few more items, the timeline or the new project status, LED materials selection, smart controls, whether or not we want them, but I think at this point we don't want them. Labor and...
But we want to have them if we want them later on.
Yes, and
So they're smart control,
well,
accessible.
yes, and that was one of the...
Upgradable.
That was one of the factors in deciding who the supplier would be, if their model could have smart controls installed. So even if we don't want it now, it could be installed later.
Excellent.
And who made the determination that we don't want smart controls?
Yeah,
I made the recommendation because there's no evidence of anyone having done it before where we can have access to do due diligence on the functionality of it as being completely production-oriented for plug-and-play kind of.
well, I think,
activity.
well,
That's kind of,
it was...
in Maine, you mean, though?
well-
Nobody in Maine has.
No one in Maine.
No, it's a bigger subject than that.
Oh my.
Well, no one in, outside of project or pilot projects, like in Freeport or Portland, where they have done smart controls, no one's really had it for a year. The reason I like talking with Dave Johnson up in Dover Foxcroft is because they've had these streetlights for a year. So if I have any questions about performance or
Right.
what happens, I do have someone who has a year. I don't have that same thing with the smart controls.
Good communication, great.
Yep, and there was something Jen actually said, I think a while ago, about smart controls. It needs to justify the costs. I mean, this is an extra $13,000, so this is an extra year we're paying for these lights.
Right.
So I think we want to make sure it's worth it. And just after speaking with the guy from Ubiquia, I don't see a reason to do it unless we really want that remote control and dimmable function. And I mean, it's going to be up to the select board in the end.
And the thing that I can't over-amplify is the fact is, the company that we're picking is not anything but a consultant in the contract, not a person who is adding the value of guaranteeing the performance.
Well, that's not a reason not to
Well-
do it.
Well,
But
it
it
is,
is a reason
it's
to be careful
exposure,
about what we
it's
choose.
heavy exposure.
Yeah, but I would just say as well that as far as the smart controls are concerned, we really haven't come up with a plan to use them.
Okay, how do they save money? If you put this into just financial analysis, do you get your $13,000 back in a month or 30 years, or you just really feel cool because you can program things?
Again, that depends how you're putting sort of the nominal value on it, because the lights automatically turn on and off depending on when you want to do it, like 10 minutes after it can't detect the sun anymore or something.
Does it need smart control to do that?
No,
Yeah.
but smart controls, I mean,
Okay, I can answer
it's,
that. if
well,
you like.
well, no, if we don't have smart controls and we want to change the temperature or whatever, we have to call up the installer, and then it's maybe $50 to $100 to have them come here and change the lights.
I mean, to
An
reset.
individual light.
An individual light.
Yeah.
Or if it's gonna be multiple lights, I'm sure can work in some type of group coupon or whatever. But
So is it programmable timers or is it light sensors?
it's light sensors.
Okay.
But, well, unless we do have the smart controls, in that case, someone from here could just go online to a specific website and change the lights from here.
I guess in the
Or,
simplest of terms.
It's not only
I think-
change, you can do diagnostics, that they've told us.
yes.
That means you can sit here on a computer or a Wi-Fi anywhere and look at the whole grid of all the lights and determine what's going on from afar. And you don't have to send a bucket truck out there to
So I guess,
individually interrogate each light.
Yeah.
so the way I put it is, how much do we value information, is the way I would put it. Because with what the website and these smart controls would do, we pretty much get to know everything about these lights ourselves. We get to have all that information for us.
It's not just information, it's what would it save us in the costs? And in the beginning, of course, the lights are gonna behave quite well, probably.
But that's what I'm saying, with cost, it's hard to see where we're gonna see savings in costs, other than
Right.
having an installer come here and fix the lights if we ever fix the lights, or adjust the light settings. We're not,
And
I'm
our
going-
guys, our public works don't have to go out there and do
Those
stuff
fee.
seasonally or anything like that.
no.
Okay.
We would likely be hiring a third party.
Well, that, okay, so we'd have to hire a third party.
well-
Find one first.
We would, and that's next who I was gonna be bringing up, maintenance, labor
Before we go
installer.
there, so just so I want to be clear on this, so
Yep,
the functionality that we're saying we don't need right now, the only real function is being able to remotely adjust the temperature of the lamp?
there's.
I thought there was like
there's-
internet and there was all kinds of
There
other.
is internet, there's that's another sort of attachment to it. There's programming them to be dimmable, so if we want to just adjust the brightness at, say, 1 AM to a low point, so, because no one's gonna be there, and we may want the downtown to be a little less bright for people who live on there, or we may want one of the intersections to be a lot more bright,
Or
Yeah.
change it for time of year.
or change it for time of year.
But there's an important point on this dimming them and so forth, because we're billed on the wattage, not the usage.
Yeah.
We always forget that.
And that's what I have
So
to
whether it's
confirm.
dim or bright, it doesn't matter in terms of cost. We're still
Right.
paying the same amount of money based on the
Not only that,
wattage of
I'm
the
not
lamp.
sure how much the power on an LED light would change anyway.
Well, that's a good point too.
So,
But, and the other point is that Real Term is gonna set the brightness levels when they come to us with the program. So we will have already done that when we put the lights up, and hopefully we're right.
Do they
about the
have, do they have
luminance.
the ability to take a static light like up in Dover Foxtrot and adjust it for time of year and set it, leave the program in firmware in the light so that it knows to change for time of year? Or do you have to go physically there and do it?
I believe it's going there physically.
Well, that means a bucket truck needs to be acquired by our maintenance, road maintenance guy, so he can go up there and work on our lights,
Well, only if you require a change in the,
time of year. lighting.
Well, and again,
Well,
You said it's
mean
light
the- Are
sensors.
you saying the time it comes on and the time it goes off?
Yeah.
That's automatic, that's by a sensor.
yeah.
That's a
Just-
sensor.
Okay.
You don't set a time, you sense darkness
Well-
and then come on.
Well, let's be
Yes,
careful on
yes
that.
and no, because
Hopefully.
we could have it set so that it happens half an hour after.
Oh, yeah, but it's
But-
a sensor.
Yes,
It's not a time,
right,
right. It's
Are you
not-
sure about that?
yes.
It's strictly light sensitivity, available light that determines. So on a cloudy day, it's gonna turn on sooner in theory.
Depends on the sense, yeah.
So these are
It'll
the,
probably be on
It
the
could, it could.
sensitivity.
yeah, well, that's the question. I mean,
Yeah.
these are the details we ought to be anal about before we decide what we're gonna do here.
Well, and at any time, we can spend the money and add the features?
Yep.
Does it add to all of them, or does it add to individual ones?
Well, the smart controls are more of an all-in-one bundle. If we're getting the dimmable thing, we get the website too. It's
Just as a old guy perspective, I remember when I used to have to get up and walk across the room to change the channel. And we survived.
yes.
Good analogy.
Where would be a,
Only if you were the kid.
But that was only the sweat equity. Didn't
from
cost
transfer
us.
station?
The electrical supply and everything doesn't change,
Just wondering.
or distribution doesn't change. What was the question regarding the manual change?
Well, no,
He was making a joke.
well, I was making a joke about my old TV, but if we can add it at any time in the future, when we realize that those additional features, nuances, controllability things, but fundamentally, I guess I shy away from being cool for the sake of being cool. I'd like to save some money by being cool.
Yeah.
And does the wattage drop if you go to a lower setting?
I haven't heard.
It's based on the wattage of the bulb.
Oh, okay.
So if you go from what we are now down to what, 10 or
It's
13,
actually
that's
running.
where your big chunk of savings is.
And I had sort of a chat with the one from Ubiquia to show all the features. and-
Ubiquity, I think.
Ubiquia.
Yeah. Oh, is it Ubiquia?
I thought it was Ubiquia. But anyways, I chatted with him and said, so, we're on the fence about it. Do we have to do it, or could we do it later? And he did say, obviously, if we're doing it later, it's probably going to cost more because we're sending people to then
Oh,
install
yeah.
it.
Yeah, so it's not a 6
Yeah.
or 1/2 dozen, it's a 6 and 8.
Yeah, obviously we'd be saving doing it now, but again, it'll be a decision for the select board of whether we want it or not.
Okay, so that I don't have to get up and tell the select board this and all you hear this for the first time. This
All
is-
right, well, hold on, Bob, I guess you need to cover your ears then.
Okay, cover your ears, but
I'm not covering my ears.
here's the detail. It's a brand-new startup company, Ubiquia, that's doing the smart controller. There's no track record within reach that I can do due diligence with to find out how it works, how well they're working it. And I've been around the high-tech launching of all kinds of technology all my life. And I'd say that's too high risk for a municipality at this point, number one.
Yep.
That's my, up here in Maine, they don't even have an established relationship with someone who's gonna do the, forward maintenance or repairs or fixing or anything yet. And so therefore, I am not in favor of this just because of that.
So I will just quickly say, I believe they have been doing work in Massachusetts, but I do still agree with your points that I don't feel comfortable if they don't have a main example right now. Or at least a main example similar to what our situation is.
Or a main example, just warming up saying verbally that they do it and they haven't done it yet.
Yes.
And we've been that way before, we know about that. So I'm just being more conservative, that we ought to wait and see. Why one of these towns that was supposedly already hooking this up and going ahead with it, which has turned out not to be the case, with further scrubbing on the details.
But if every town takes the Waldeboro route, nobody will ever have an example.
But that's not the way it works in technology, and you know it as well as I do.
Well, again, the towns that Mark, Carter, and everyone has been saying, like Freeport or Portland, they've done it, but it's been in a pilot project, so
But not
that's
well
what-
enough to tell us about it, enough to know
That's,
anything.
again, why I'm saying no to the smart controls, because it's just been a test. It hasn't been an actual thing.
Can we do the same?
A pilot project?
Yeah. Pick two lights and outfit them with the technology and see if we like it.
I'd have to,
At their expense?
I'd have
Interesting
to, I'd have to
That's
check
expensive.
more.
That's a good idea,
I'd have
actually.
to, that was an idea, and I'd have to check more on that, but I don't know if they'd be fine with that. I mean, again, they're already rolling it out in towns like, say, Bar Harbor.
If they wanna sell
Rolling
this
it out,
feature, I would
what
think
does
they'd
that
be
mean?
willing to invest in that sale. That's a great
They
idea.
don't want to
I
be
think.
guinea pigs.
So what does rolling it out mean? I've heard that more often than, I don't understand the term rolling it out.
Set it up to go.
Yeah, other towns aren't doing, other than the Portland, Freeport, the ones I already said, Bar Harbor is not needing a pilot project, they're just doing it.
No, they haven't got it installed enough to know if it's working right and how.
No, they signed their IGA back in June, so they didn't, so again, I'm not calling them and saying, how's the smart controls, because they don't have the smart controls right
Right,
now.
that's also
And-
consistent with what my point is.
So if we wanna, if that's something in our cause of, I mean, that's what I can talk to them about, is it possible to have one or two lights as a test, but
Yeah.
Okay,
At
so,
what point do we have to make a decision about this, Max? Is it before the end of the month, or is it into October?
So they have said that they're just gonna give me an update on the project status to go through all the items. They still need to select the labor and the installer. They're probably gonna be picking Hedstrom over in Camden, because they want someone more local.
And they would do the maintenance too.
Well, I'll hold off on that.
Okay.
They're gonna go over our inventory of what we want. We mostly have Cobra heads. That's the sort of default one we're gonna have. We have one floodlight in the downtown, so they may just install the Cobra heads and then decorative later, or the flood later, if we want to work in phases, or if we want it all in one go. Acquisition from CMP. We haven't bought our lights from CMP. I was told we don't want to do that until we hit the IGA. So they're just gonna ask, have you done it yet? I'm gonna say, no, we're gonna wait until the IGA's out. And then, maintenance, what's gonna happen if we go with them. So, the short term, they're gonna handle it, and then long term, what are we gonna do? We can have Hedstrom be our maintenance crew. We could have Real Term be we could have Real Term be the maintenance crew to then hire a maintenance crew.
Yeah.
The general contractor for the maintenance.
those details get, my experience
I'm-
again,
Yeah, no, and I think
is too
again,
future.
talking with Dave Johnson from Dover Foxcroft, he just said that didn't make sense. We just cut out the middleman
Right.
and just,
So they're doing the same. Yeah.
yes. So I think when I talk with them, they'll likely say for maintenance, if you go with us, we are just gonna hire this,
Okay, there's another level of detail that ought to be
For
presented
maintenance,
here on the technology, and that has to do with a wireless control technology that is going to.
the light sensors.
No, the wireless, if you're gonna use this remote access system, it's gonna be connected via a wireless signal.
Are you talking the smart controls?
Yes,
I don't think unless we're really committed to this pilot project, I don't even think it's warranted to talk
Okay.
about the smart controls. I think that's just a waste
well, I
of
just
time.
want
at this
people to
point.
know one of the risks.
Okay,
It is a risk, because there's all kinds of different wireless controlling technology out there involving which cellular company you go with for their messaging, and it's basically SMS kind of, that's the acronym, by the way.
yep.
But it's basically that, but is it Verizon that they're gonna use, or is it US Cellular, or is it gonna be AT&T? And AT&T will be far more robust in a year from now than they are right now. And that type of controlling is done, and then, I don't, so I'm concerned that we haven't got a good enough grip on that detail. If I'm gonna get involved in giving any advice on this, I'd hold off just on that alone.
I think that's more of something for anyone who's still holding on to the smart controls. I think I've told you,
Well, the smart controller provider,
Yes.
as to have some results where they know how.
I don't
they're
have
gonna-
those results, so that's why I'm.
For
I think
that
you're
particular function.
John, you're beating a
agreeing.
dead
You're
horse.
agreeing.
We're
Yeah,
not gonna
I-
be talking about smart
agree.
controls on this project unless it's a pilot, and they
Okay.
pay for it.
Right.
And
That's
unless, yeah, that sounds like unless that's it. I
So
don't
then
think
the
we're gonna-
town pays a reoccurring charge for the interconnectivity to the cell company that is providing this feature, connectivity feature.
So if I can just give a what would happen scenario. Once we get the IGA and let's say Real Term and Ubiquia do agree to a pilot project. Let's say they pick the lights to the town landing. Let's say that. Let's just say that, or one or two out and at the dangerous intersections. Let's just say that for examples. And we get the IGA. I would be calling up the person from Ubiquia first to get, and you and him can talk more about these details if you'd like, to more flesh out how this would work and what would be needed. I think then it would benefit the select board to have a similar meeting as well. Perhaps you can be there as well to give your 2 cents on that. But
It's
unless,
hopefully worth more than 2 cents.
a nickel. So,
25 cents.
25 cents.
2 cents,
Well,
I'm gonna quit and get out of here. I'm not kidding, I spent a lot of time digging into this.
And we appreciate that, but again, unless we're actually going with the smart controls, we're not arguing on anything, because I think we both agree, we don't want these, we want to make sure it's technology that's
Well, I
going to
tried
be
to,
useful.
I tried to
And unless,
nurture you about this on many occasions between now, before this, and I'm not getting any feedback that would show a level of concern about this.
No, but we're in agreement.
we don't want
I
the
haven't
smart
heard
controls.
that, though.
We don't want
Well,
the
we're
smart
saying right now,
controls
we're in
unless
agreement.
all these details are satisfied.
Right.
I don't have any of those details, so we don't want the smart controls. That's
Right.
what I've been saying for
I think that's
20 minutes.
the 4th time you've said it.
Well, good, I hope the provider of this potential technology gets a copy of the tape so they can understand there are people around that have depth in Maine that are concerned about this.
Every time I talk with them, I always ask your questions. And sometimes they give me a direct answer, sometimes they do not. When they do not give me a direct answer, I am concerned. Hence why I am saying, I don't want the smart controls.
All right.
Or not yet, but it would be nice to have them compatible so they can plug and play them after somebody else has proven it out for us. in another-
And we now have Bar Harbor as someone we can watch. We have Freeport and Portland, now that they're exiting their pilot project, that we can watch.
I think we need something to disagree about so we can continue.
Yeah, we need to move on. 'cause-
Yeah,
let's
I
go.
would like to move on
I
to,
don't mean to be disagreeable.
No,
I've been beating my
we-
brains on
well,
this. Dan.
So that's good.
We aren't being, that's the
So
thing.
what's the next step on this?
I'm gonna talk with them on the 30th and go over those items that I mentioned about the timeline and everything.
Yep.
I'm hoping to have an IGA in sometime in October, and then I will make sure to come to the EDC. I'll make sure to have it more publicly known, have it on the website, and whatnot. Tell the select board, and then maybe wait 2 weeks after that select board meeting to then have a vote on it. So that everyone sees what is being proposed by Realtor,
Who's got to vote,
the select board.
Select board votes, okay.
I have another
But
So
question.
which,
I
okay, hang
just
on,
want
so
it to be more
which select board meeting are you targeting for the vote?
I need to see when this IGA is out.
Sounds like the second one in October, first one in November, if all goes.
If all goes
according to
well. If all
Max's
goes well.
plan.
Okay.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, one thing I haven't heard here this morning that I don't know about, and that is the alternative of just going with CMP as a select board decision.
Hasn't been made.
Hasn't been made.
But if an A or B, be one or the other.
Last select board meeting, I did go to them and say, this is what CMP has been offering. This is all the information I have from CMP. It was the model they'd use, and I did confirm it would be 3,000. That's the temperature CMP would do. And I showed what the lease agreement is. And that's all CMP gave me.
I'm leaning toward
I can talk more with towns that have chosen CMP to see why they chose CMP.
Yeah, a couple have, they wanted to do away with all of the
They wanted
All
a
the
simple.
stuff we're talking about.
They want, yeah,
unknowns.
they
They
wanted,
wanted life to be simple,
they wanted a simple,
and they were willing to pay $250,000 to do it.
Wow.
$250,000.
Well,
Well-
the difference is depending on the town, I'm exaggerating.
well, they're not paying, but it's the savings.
It's
that-
the opportunity cost.
Yes.
Oh, I see, we lose that.
You're passing up a bigger savings.
We'd
by
lose
going
the
with
savings.
Yeah.
CMP.
Over time.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a big
And that's part of the thing I will,
So they get the
Say-
savings.
I mean, our whole purpose for doing this was to
What's the
save money.
point?
Right.
Yeah, what's the point? I mean, really, if we're gonna give away the savings.
Well, let's let Max
Well,
finish his.
if
Yeah.
CMP,
Sorry.
well, if CMP, from what I got, CMP's offer is a short term, we don't pay, we start saving money, da-da-da-da-da. Real term is, we have to wait a few years until we actually start seeing money being saved, because we have to pay back.
But with real term, we have flexibility in terms of how we use the units. We have the option later on down the road of doing smart controls if we want to, it makes sense.
Yeah.
We can adjust the lumens, you can't adjust the lumens with CMP.
Ooh.
And the ones we're talking about with real term coming at 2,700, it's less harsh,
Yeah,
so.
well, we do have to be, we don't have the blue lights, right? We have the other lights.
Right. 2,700 is the more warmer setting.
That's what we need, because that will just be crazy.
It's still gonna be an LED warm light.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
LED warm.
What are the
is-
lights set at now, do we know?
what are they set at now?
Yeah, our town lights.
Um,
Are we gonna be brighter, dimmer, same?
That's a good question.
The color would try and match what we have now. It would still be a bit cooler, I think, but it would, the 2,700 would still have that sort of oranges
Yeah,
tint.
all right.
So the other thing that hasn't mentioned at all is that we put on hold the LED, the Wi-Fi hotspot public use option for
The
now.
Wi-Fi,
Not-
the
not
Wi-fi,
Part of the option.
it would, if we don't have smart controls, we don't get the Wi-Fi.
Yep.
But you don't necessarily get the Wi-Fi with the smart control. That's an option to the smart control.
Right, but we're not getting the smart controls, so it's moot.
Smooth issue.
For
So
now.
that's what I thought at
I
least.
just want to get it all recorded.
We can, it can be part of the, when I talk about the pilot project idea, to have Wi-Fi if we're doing it just for the landing. But if
That's a good spot to do it.
it is, and but if we're not doing the pilot project and they say no, that we're not gonna do that, you either buy it or not, and again, I'm leaving it, that's a decision for the select board, whether they want the smart controls or not.
Okay.
So,
And our recommendation will be not to include them, it sounds like.
that can be a separate meeting when I present the IGA.
Fine, all right, good.
So,
Next.
next, I don't know if we wanna still do a TIF discussion if everyone's leaving in 10 or so minutes.
No, that'll take us right to 9. Let's go right to the,
It's 8:45, we need time to get there.
Yep.
you got 10
Oh,
minutes, you got
that's-
10 minutes to cover what's
You're what,
important.
it's different, this says 25 of 9,
Mine's a little fast.
okay.
You want to talk about this?
Okay, so, the Lincoln County Regional Planning has what they call an ask grant. It's pretty much seed money for someone or group to start, trying to address an issue that they have in their area. We used it last year so we could get the recreational, community center survey that was distributed this year. I wanted to throw out the idea of possibly a similar survey, but for public transportation. That was an issue that I think Julie's brought up a few times, and I can see why that might be a thing to at least consider. So,
What's your vision for the, is there a vision related to this or no?
I see the first step being well, first of all, seeing if there's actual
A need,
interest.
yeah.
Because in the rural area, and the new planner from Lincoln, the new Lincoln County planner, is very pro public transportation as well. I think she just came from Philadelphia, And Mary Ellen has also been saying how public transportation is something she would like to get off the ground in Lincoln County.
Okay.
And I think Waldoboro would probably be a best case starting scenario to see if it can even be possible, because everyone out here, if you live in rural Maine, you need a car pretty much. So, with this fixed route idea of what I was thinking, at least downtown, Hannaford, and then wherever, that's probably where
Doctor's offices for sure, probably.
Yes, that's.
Medical buildings, hospitals.
So I would probably have that more at somewhere near Kaler's Corner then, so they can walk from there rather than
Right,
being
right.
dropped off there.
Mhm.
But this survey would just see if there's more of a need to have Waldoboro residents go either all throughout Waldoboro, or if there's more interest having them go to one of the nearby towns of either Damerscott or Thomaston.
Right.
With Damerscott, you have the Miles campus, you have the downtown, you have the YMCA, and you'll have the Newcastle train station eventually. And in Thomaston, it'll be connected to I can't remember what their name is, but their bus route.
Mhm.
Which goes to Walmart.
Which goes to Wal. So it would pretty
It
much
starts
be.
at Walmart, and then it goes to the hospitals and all
Yes,
those stuff.
so it would be
And the
going.
other shopping
So it would be
center.
going to the Thomaston Walmart.
Yeah,
To connect to that.
right.
Which then can get to pretty much the same things I said,
Right.
Damerscott,
Yeah.
as well as the bus route.
Damascotta connects down to Miles.
Yes, it would.
That's a terrific idea, really.
But again,
All right.
I think I just want to see what the interest is, so the grant would do what the community center one would do, enough to send one out to every house here in Waldoboro, including each individual one for Sproul Block and all the
Could I
apartments.
add one more,
Suggestion.
yeah. You left off fun up there.
So-
Movies, out to eat, theaters. I mean, you have the time frame, 6 PM to 12 AM, or whatever, in the afternoon on a weekend.
So include, I'll probably think of a different word,
Yeah,
Entertainment?
yep.
maybe.
Is there a place where this, I'm just trying to imagine it happening, and with fuel costs what they are, meaning low,
Yeah,
it's, more people gonna just keep driving everywhere.
yeah.
Unless we have another bomb.
Well, that's why,
So alternate, saving, again,
Yep, yep.
for people to go to the, what would, compared to getting in their car, would
Yep.
be inconvenience. It's either gonna be because they can't stand to putting more fuel in their car, or the other whole element of this thing is the age. And I don't know if age, is this, it's gonna be,
Yep.
is there any place where you're saying, are you over 60 or are you under 50 in this? Because it seems like that, it's gonna be a lot of,
No, I don't want too much,
Demographic.
I don't want too much personal information like that. That's why I ask for medical appointments or,
okay.
and I'm trying to be broad in those topics.
On the
And-
last, sorry,
Yeah.
on the last page, Max, you've got some zoning questions, and they're very general. You've done nothing to introduce the topic, so I think most people reading this won't know what a shared parking rule is.
Where's that?
At the top under zoning.
Oh, no, that's not
Oh,
part of
that's a
this.
different,
That's the TIF thing.
that's the TIF, yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry,
That's just for us.
sorry.
Yeah, no, I
My
was
apologies.
thinking zoning, what are you talking about?
All right.
Well,
So Butler screws up another meeting.
I'm sorry.
to go on your alternatives, that's why I'm rather broad in that first question, medical appointments, recreation, and then on the back page, I ask, how much would you justify going on the bus for? Would it be $2, would it be $10? How much would you actually?
So, and the thing too is that you do have people who don't have cars who need to go to
Appoint. things?
government things,
Yep.
like for instance, the registry
Mhm.
for an ID, or over to Social Security
Mm-hmm.
in Rockland, or wherever they need to go. And if we had a navigator in town, they'd be that's another category.
Government?
Yeah, you could call it that or whatever. I mean, I don't know if government's the best word, but yeah. because a lot of people have trouble getting to those.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, heck, they might have to go to the county for, whatever reason.
Well, with this, I think the goal is just to, what I'm hoping to get is just feedback, seeing if this is something people would even want. And I guess I want to see what the responses are like, because I take some, the reason I'm asking so many of these questions is what happened in Harpswell, where they had a transportation service that would go over their town. Thing is, the stops they chose were so isolated, you had
Yeah.
to drive to these stops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sort of where I was just going with this. I want to say this kind of sideways. I think that you will get not very positive feedback because everybody drives their cars. I mean, we've never adapted to the idea of
That's-
driving to get onto something else or walking to get onto something else. So
Yeah.
when you get a bunch of, I'm not interested in this responses, I think we have, as a group, we have to recognize that there may be some changes in the next 10 years where people are more incentivized to not drive.
Well, and that's
If you
why.
watch what the
Well, and that's why.
climate change, I'll just say the word.
Yeah. Well, and that's why one of the questions I wanted to ask was number 8. To the best of your knowledge, can you live within, I just said 15-minute.
Yeah,
walk.
right, not close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just said that because the ideal place I was thinking to have one stop was,
If it was in 15 minutes, yeah.
yeah, would be, I was thinking maybe the library, because that's closer to all the apartment buildings that are in the downtown. I see it's a good net.
But Waldeboro is
Makes it-
small enough that you could have a route with more than one. I mean, if it's public transportation for Waldeboro, you could have, I mean, there's no difference between the bus stopping right at Friendship and Old Route 1 and then at the library, if there's people in the Sproul block, for example.
Friendship and Old.
Like.
Main Street and
Main Street and Old Route.
Main,
Main
yeah,
Street.
yeah.
So you could have more than one, I mean, you could have
Yeah.
10.
Yeah,
stops
that,
that-
I'm saying
that catch.
one stop would be there, one stop would be at the Hannaford, just if someone wants that
Right.
quick thing there. But that's why, because more stops would depend on whether people want to go more to Damerscott or more to Thomaston. Because if it's to Thomaston, I might as well have them cut down Friendship Road too, just to pick up some people along there.
Sure.
If it's more to Damerscott,
There's two samples of, they're not really reflective of our question, but in Booth Bay Harbor in the summertime, we spend some time on the boat down there sometimes.
Yep.
There's like a little trolley bussy thing that drives around, and it just stops a bunch of places.
Yeah.
A lot of people use it. The other thing that I've learned is, like, at Acadia National Park, they have those buses that go all over the place.
Yep.
And they pick you up if you're walking. In fact, they pick your bike up and connect it to the front. I mean, they're very, very, very accommodating. But they don't have they have stops, but they also routinely
Just pick up people.
people
Yeah.
up, yeah. So, I mean, if you, yeah, it would have to be something that we would either be so compelled to because gas was $11 a gallon, or,
I think $4, remember that time it got to $4? I would have done almost anything at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a lot of money.
You might want to think of taking question number 8 and massaging it a bit, or maybe adding another question about asking what geographic area of Waldeboro do you live in, and give them options. North Waldeboro, the village, South Waldeboro.
Oh, yeah,
or
that's
whatever.
actually a good
What side of
question.
the river, east side of the river?
Then you can correlate the,
Yeah, exactly.
which places you go.
Yeah.
We did do a survey one year about that, way back during the visioning process. There is a survey and the results here for where people went in 2010, and then you could compare.
well, and I'll
Maybe ask the same question.
And I'll kind of wrap it up because
Yep.
it's getting close to time. This was just more, this is obviously first draft. If we get the grant, more work.
The grant will pay for,
The grant will pay for it. Yeah.
I think we're
It'll
all in
print-
for that.
It'll pay for
That's
publishing,
awesome.
for
Yeah.
printing it, for the letters, and for the replies.
Nice.
and if we went down this road, it's probably a
No pun intended.
2020,
get it off the ground.
21, something like that would be the,
Well, we're just
I mean,
getting.
if we went down,
Yeah,
if we
meeting.
went
Yep.
through with this, we're a couple of years out probably, right?
Oh, yeah, I don't imagine a bus or anything anytime soon. This is just to see if people
So you
would be
got,
interested.
so we want to be careful how we distribute this then, right?
Why?
Because you're going to put this in everybody's mailbox.
We're just
They're gonna go,
trying to
"Whoa, hey,
gauge."
Waldeboro's getting a bus.
No, we're just saying, put on the top, we're gauging, we're just
Yeah, the
trying
vi-
to get gauging
Right
interest.
underneath purpose, it says to gather local feedback regarding a potential service. That's it.
Would it be either from the framing the question for the community, or maybe someday framing the application, should there be a recognition of the fact that there's gonna be more and more pressure to not drive because of the environmental impacts?
I don't want to try and include, I don't want to make it sound like I'm trying to
Okay, no, it's just
force
a,
different factors on
Yeah.
this.
So the thing to remember too in town
If you
is
wanna
that
head
there's
out,
a
I'll just
lot of
catch
people
up.
who don't have cars. And there's a lot of people who have bad cars.
yeah.
So, were you ready?
Yeah, he needs.
All right, let me go to.
Are we going to call it? I think that's the
Well,
end of
was
the
there,
forum.
well, I was just saying he could get going unless you want to quickly have people go over summaries of things. Thank you. Or,
So can I go with you, Bob?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're gonna adjourn the meeting.
Okay.
We got another meeting taken over.
yeah.
Anybody wants to stay and chit chat, we can stay and
I
chit
should
chat.
go chit chat at work.